And as Scott said, I became part of this group a year and a half ago, so I took over, and I joined this interesting group, which is part of this project, but I also want to mention that there's more people behind this. We have producers and company managers, which I listed some here. I don't think I would have enough space to list them all. But I would like to point out that all these producers, pretty much all of them own or manage big companies. I want to say that because those are the easiest ones to work with, because they understand the impact of disease and they understand the value that this project has for the region and for the future. So that's a pretty key point here. I also would like to point out that a lot of veterinarians we've been working with and I've been talking to, and they have been very supportive, because in the end, those are the ones who are going to be taking the samples and figuring out how to pick those within the region and trying to clean up the region. And I also want to point out that we've got a lot of support from two genetic companies that they have been pretty open with data. You know, they give us names, they give us phone numbers, they give us addresses, which that helps a lot. Instead of going to a lot of databases that we don't know if they are right or wrong, so they save us a lot of time. So for some of you, Stevens County, it's located in the west central Minnesota. It's a roughly 20 by 20 mile county, which is fairly square, fairly flat. Now, once I got here, and once we got that data, I got a challenge, which was, why don't we expand the region? So I said, I thought that was going to be easy. That was a nice challenge. So I said, sure, let's do it. Why not? But then we started finding a lot of farms around it. But you remember I mentioned there's 89 sites here. We got roughly 85 sites in surrounding counties. So a highly dense county surrounded by low dense counties, which is going to make things easier a little bit. The interesting part here is that when I started talking with producers here, I learned that most of the pigs produced here either come to Stevens County or just go back to those surrounding counties. So I mean, there was not a huge movement of pigs between counties, which kept, or at least reduced, the chances of getting viruses into that 6-county region. The bad thing is that we learned that there were some sites here that were getting pigs either from North or South Dakota, and here, which I have to update this map, which I learned yesterday, there's a positive farm here, which was getting positive pigs from Canada. But in the end, I mean, as of today, pretty much all these dots are going to become green. We're just in the process of defining their status. So once we saw that, and meetings started going on, thanks to the success of this project, they said, why don't we expand again? So they said, let's use the border we used a few years ago when we were getting rid of pseudorabies, which is Highway 212, to divide Minnesota into parts, northern and southern. The interesting part is going to be here. And this is all those green dots represent a farm based on a database we got from the Minnesota Board of Animal Health. And once we got that database, I said, okay, this is not going to be pretty easy. It's going to be kind of fun, interesting. So the way we did, or we started investigating this database, it's exactly the same way we did it with the 6 surrounding counties for the Stevens project, which was every single dot was linked to a name and to a phone number. So I decided to be brave enough and use my bad English to call every single dot, every single producer. So I got some people that would hang up on me. And then I talked to Dr. Moines and I said, I don't think this is working. I think this would work better if there was an English-speaking person calling producers. And I think it did. I think it did work because we had a summer student last year, Steve Tunan, and he's calling all the producers around Stevens County, and we narrowed down, if you remember on my previous map, look at 86 farms, 85 farms, I don't remember exactly, and look at all the dots we had around Stevens County. So I mean, we narrowed it down pretty nicely. And nowadays we had another student, Dan Finch, who helped us at all these dots in these counties. And we barely found like 20% of those dots, And those dots sometimes might represent 6 cells, 5 cells. So at some point we'll have to come and decide how many pig or how many pigs are going to represent one dot. Because it's not the same to have one dot for one sow than one dot for a 1,000 sow farm. So as of today, I want to mention that we have 360 locations identified. From these 368, from the original first expansion, which is Stevens and the 6 surrounding counties, 160 locations are part of this group. But if you look at today, we have it's not surprising. Out of all of them, 200 finishing sites, and then 78 sow farms. I do have to mention that 78 sow farms could be either farm to finish, farm to win, and they could also represent either 10 sows, 20 sows, 5,400 sows, which is our biggest one as of now. We also have 8 buying stations. We thought we'd put them in the map because they're going to become handy at some point. We have one truck wash, and we have 40 dots in which we've got only coordinates. For example, Dr. Laura Scholes from Swine Veterinary, she would send us a file, a Google Earth file with coordinates, and we will do that in our map. For sure we know those are farms. We still have to define if there are farm-to-fish farms, nursery farms, so we're in that process. So this is an ongoing process. The map changes pretty much every single month. Now, from those 368 locations, our best guess is that we have this number of sows. We're missing a lot of data here, so for sure this number is going to be bigger. And this is the number of grow intakes. Again, we're still missing a lot of information, and this might change in the coming months. So out of those locations, we have test results for 58%. When I say test results, it's either that we have tested that farm or their normal testing, their normal surveillance, so we're using also those results, or the farm is empty, because we find sometimes that some farms are empty. Now, that from those that are tested, only 5% of them are positive, which I'm going to show you in this table, which are positive. So we have 4 sow sites that are positive, and 1 nursery, and 17 finishing sites. Now, from this 4, 3 of them have been tested through ELISA, and they do vaccinate. So, I mean, you can see that they're vaccine-related antibodies. Now, this number, again, is going to increase to 23 after the news from yesterday. But as you can see, pretty much we have them all on this side, which is a good thing. The bad thing is that the more farms we find, they're going to start populating this table here, and this is going to become our challenge to get to all these farms as fast as possible. We can't do that in a very fast way. It's kind of difficult to have everyone or every vet go to all the farms at some point. So this is just a map representing all the green dots north of 212. Again, these black pentagons are the hog buying stations. So this is our green dot situation, our blue dot situation. Again, if you remember from my borderline health map, this is what we end up having. I mean, so databases are not, if you get a database tomorrow, please just be very careful handling that database to narrow it down as much as you can. And this is the distribution of our positive dots. So again, all these are the sow sites that are positive. All these are the vaccine positive to the farms. We got a new one that is going to be here. Things coming from Canada that are coming negative, and they're seroconverting here. So now we have control of that site. Before we didn't. But when we put all the dots together, it's kind of scary to see, even though we saw a lot, it's kind of scary to see a lot of red dots around green dots. And some of those blue dots for sure are going to be green because they are owned by the same people that own the green dots. So I know that, but they just haven't been tested. The interesting thing here is that these kind of maps have a huge impact in producers. For example, in the past, we had one of these red dots that was very close to multiplier. So both producers got together with the vets, and they're trying to work something out. And that's the kind of stuff we're seeing today with these kind of maps. So again, if we look at that, this is kind of frustrating at some point. But again, it's encouraging because we know that we're not going to find this amount of farms here. So this is outdated data. For our challenges, I believe that, or maybe the most important challenge is people. I mean, working with people is hard. And I divided it in producers and veterinarians. And why I did that? Because Veterinarians are easier to work with because they understand what we're talking about, the disease, the impact. But sometimes producers, especially those that are medium and small producers, or traditional producers, some of them they haven't even heard about the disease, and some of them they just don't care. And sometimes we usually send out some invites for quarterly meetings in Stevens County, and some of them haven't even heard of our Stevens County meetings, but we know that they have received the letters. So I guess as soon as they get them, the letter goes immediately to the trash. And some of them, which is understandable, they're hesitant, so they prefer to talk to the vet. So this is one point. If you're going to have a South American student called producers, don't do that. Please try to with us, English-speaking person. With veterinarians, I have to say that we've got a lot of support. They have been very cooperative, very supportive. Interestingly enough, there's a few veterinarians that say, yes, we're going to help you out with this at some point. We're still waiting for that help, but that's okay. There's one special case that I called him pretty much every single day. For, I don't know if it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and the person that answered the phone, he would start laughing at me without saying anything. She would recognize my accent right away. So I just gave up on him. We sent him a letter. We haven't heard from him yet. So, and the other thing is, it would be nice to have them, just like here, all in the same room, so that we can talk about our region, so that we can come to an agreement of how to handle this certain pig flow that crosses with another pig flow. It would be easier, They can change flows using the same buildings. But that's kind of a challenge. The other challenge is regional pig flow. I would love to say this. I would love to say, I think we know where all the pigs are and where they came from. But that would be a very nice lie, because I don't think we're ever going to know that, because producers, based on business decisions, they just change sites or change flows or stop putting pigs in certain buildings. So that's going to be a problematic thing. The other thing is that they might change their source where they buy the pigs from. So I didn't know that a per-positive pigs cost less than a per-negative pigs. That was interesting to me. So that's going to be another hurdle that we have to go through. And they've said it before, communication is always going to be hard to get everyone on the same page. And some people, they just get the letters, but they just don't have any means.